the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any public comments? No public.
We do not have any public comments at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Now, can we, are there any staff communications for this evening?
Chair, there are no staff communications.
Thank you. Can we, the next item is approval of the minutes from the last meeting, March 25th, 2024. Can we do this by an aye vote from the commission? Got it. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes from last meeting?
No questions.
All right, no questions from the commissioners. Now we'll vote on to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve?
First, second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Knox and a second from Vice Chair Beas. So I will begin roll call. Commissioner Knox?
Aye.
Commissioner Mares?
Aye.
Vice Chair Beas?
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca?
Aye.
The motion passes.
Before it passes, I should have corrected. I would recommend Commissioner Mares abstain since she wasn't present for the meeting. Yeah. So do you want to redo the roll call minus Commissioner Mares?
Yes, absolutely. With Commissioner Knox?
Aye.
Vice Chair Beas?
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca?
Aye.
And then Commissioner Mares will be abstaining, correct?
Abstain. Correct.
Okay. We still have passed 3 with 1 absent and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to regular business. Item number 2, a request to increase the parking supply for 236 to 268 East Beverly Boulevard. The recommendation is we have to decide between denying the request for modifying the length of the existing right turn only pocket and red curb, or approving the request for modifying the length of the existing right turn only pocket and red curb in attachment C. So we'll open it up to commissioner question or comments.
Is there a presentation for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Excuse us, Chair. So this item is brought in front of the commission today with respect to parking on the north side of Beverly Boulevard. So the request came in from residents living on the south side. There's a lot of apartments in that area, and they were requesting whether or not we could remove some of the red curb on the north side. That is actually a right turn pocket into the property at 23 or 236 and 268 East Beverly Boulevard. So based on our recommendation and field observations, there are 2 options to actually remove some of the red curb, which will still allow there sufficient spacing for queuing of vehicles turning right into the residential parcel, or deny the request and keep the red curb as is. You can actually see from attachment B, that segment of red curb is a lot. And in field observations between the traffic engineer and staff, we feel that there is sufficient red curb if we just remove a large part of it, so we would allow multiple parking spaces for that residential neighborhood. In attachment C, you could see that we would actually keep some of the red and then white out a lot of that red curb. So the recommendation in front of the commission today is to either deny or approve the request to remove the red curb. And if there are any further questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Just for additional background, Caesar, it's my understanding that prior to COVID, that red curve wasn't present, or was?
Mr. City Manager, that's correct. The red curb was added as an additional precautionary with respect to the residential housing on the north side. But the reality is that it's not needed. We have sufficient space. That section there is for right turn only, and it actually doesn't block the second lane going westbound.
Thank you, Director. Now we'll move it to questions, comments from Commission.
I see no reason why it couldn't be changed and to allow more parking spaces for the residents, as most of the residents in Montebello that live around apartment areas have issues finding parking. If it doesn't interfere with the traffic or it doesn't obstruct anything, I am in favor of changing it.
Thank you. Commissioner Mares? Do you have any comments or questions? That's okay. Vice Chair?
Okay, how big is that pocket, right turn pocket? How long are they?
The right turn pocket currently is almost 200 feet. The pocket itself. And the red curve actually extends a couple hundred feet further going east.
I would go ahead and take out that red curve because as a parking. There's no parking to begin with there anyway. So they have residents or the visitors could park there.
Thank you, Vice Commissioner.
So what's the reasoning for keeping the remaining section of red curb there?
The red curb is just to allow for ingress egress into the property, so allow for some turning movements. But for the remaining section of the red curb, the request is to actually remove it to allow for additional parking.
I mean, I was referring to the 30 feet.
The additional 30 feet as shown in attachment C.
Yeah, the 30 feet that's remaining. Is that just to allow transition to the right turn only lane?
Yes, sir.
I think it's to allow for the cars to transition into it, so it might be needed to have a little bit of space for safety.
Correct.
Yeah. I think we're addressing your issue concern with the parking spaces, adding 5 more. I think it's a good compromise, right? Not from completely all red to adding a little bit of red for safety purposes for cars to get into the turning lane.
How much space are you gonna need to make the right hand turn? I mean, if you're gonna take out, how much of the red is coming out?
Well, it's existing 190 feet. Sorry. Yeah, 190 feet of no parking. Is that correct, Director?
That's correct.
So we're significantly adding, like the request says, 5 new parking spaces from 0 to 5. So that's a big jump.
Now, I will add these parking spaces are, to a certain extent, supplemental parking spaces from the folks that live across the street, which are the ones that are more heavily impacted by, just lack of parking, just in general, right?
Right.
So if you ever go out to the street, it's not totally taken up with parking, right? So, but they do have parking issues after hours, obviously, when people are coming home from work, school, whatever. So we're just trying to actually just kind of make them whole to what it was before. Again, prior to COVID, this wasn't there. We're getting more parking spaces, but we also need the red striping in order for the entrance egress. Yeah, in terms of the right pocket. Yeah.
Okay.
But it is a positive in terms of parking for them.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve this item or amend?
A motion to approve.
And can you clarify, you want to approve the additional, removing the, so option 2, approve the request for modifying the length.
I motion to approve the request.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Knox with a second from Vice Chair Beas. I will now commence roll call. Commissioner Maria Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Esther Mares,
Aye.
Vice Chair Ruben Beas,
Aye.
Chairman Vincent LaRocca.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Okay, next item is item number 3. Applied Technology Center High School, request to improve students' safety during drop-off and pickup hours. Do we have a presentation for this?
Yes. So item number 3 in front of you is to review and approve the recommended operational improvements as shown in attachment C. The school principal at Applied Technology Center actually contacted Public Works staff regarding the safety of its students during peak hours for drop-off and pickup hours. The staff went out there with the school principal and the Montebello Unified School District drivers and trainers that coordinate the ingress egress into their campus. There's a lot of concerns that were raised by both the principal and the individuals working at that facility. Our staff heard their concerns, and the recommended actions is to tailor some of the drop-off zones there to allow for safe ingress and egress. There was a lot of double parking, and it's also close to the railroad tracks there, just off of Mines there in the railroad tracks. And so we were looking at 8:30 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. when the school closes as ways to make improvements for circulation, and then also to allow parking, and then also buses to ingress egress into campus there as well. So in front of you here is a request for us to make some changes. If you look at attachment C, we're looking to allow for buses to be exempted on the north side, which is right next to the campus. Attachment D provides several options. Option number 1 is recommended operational changes at the school. Tollway, no stopping zones, and obviously the buses are exempt. Option number 2 also talks about a tollway, no stopping zone, but it allows for a different circulation around there. So it allows for more queuing for its drop-off and then pickup of students. And then option number 3 is a little bit more modified, where the ingress into campus and then flows out onto Mines.
Just to clarify, Director, so up for a recommendation from us, or for our approval, is to decide between option 1, 2, and 3. Is that correct, or?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Caesar, is there just in your experience, engineering perspective, is there a particular option that you would recommend in terms of facilitating pickups and drop-offs or minimizing impacts?
Option 2 seems to be the more prudent, allows for more queuing on their property instead of allowing queuing to be on the street itself, where there's a lot of double parking. And there's a lot of concerns from the parents that pick up and drop off their children. There's a lot of conversations between the police department and trying to enforce traffic there. So option number 2 seems to be like the more prudent option, and allowing queuing on their campus.
Whatever direction the commission wants to go, I would recommend maybe Caesar putting directional signage, depending on whatever the outcome is, kind of directing folks as they're getting there, like pick up, drop off, or unless we have to work with the school on that.
Okay, let's open it up to questions and comments. Commissioner Knox?
Actually, city manager addressed what I was gonna ask about your expertise. Based on the expertise, which of the option would be the best recommended for the school to apply or to, um, yeah, to move forward with? And you pretty much answered the question already, so that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Modis?
Would these postings affect the residents adjacent to the school? Or no?
For the most part, this is an industrial site. Something also to consider is just east of this location, the Montebello Grade Separation Project will start soon in the summer. In that area there off of Mines and Greenwood and Montebello will be closed for about 3 years or so. So it's gonna make it very difficult to actually go east because all you're gonna be able to do is go south of Montebello. But this option allows you to go either on Mines, which will not be closed off during construction, or you could actually go south on Mines as well.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair?
This is all gonna be on mines, right?
Yes.
No, no question. What are the, no, it's fine. I can go with that option instead. I think it's just on mine because the traffic there gets really backed up when you have the students getting out. I mean, every school does. I mean, I have a problem with one, we're talking, I brought it to attention, that, they come into double park anyway, and this is not being enforced. I mean, the teachers are going out there, they don't listen to teachers, you know that. If the students don't, they don't. So I have a question about that. I mean, who's gonna enforce that?
So I think it's a collaborative effort on both parts. You know, I think the education comes through with the principal reaching out to us, staff meeting out there, and also the police department's been out there as well. And so probably after implementing this, the hope is that the police department will probably help assist for the first couple of weeks and so while we implement this program. And then also that the school has to assist us with making sure that the parents understand that this is the way that we're going to be queuing, especially when the new school year starts and seeing that Montebello is going to be closed off. It's imperative that everybody follows suit. Otherwise, it's going to be not easy to going through that area, especially when there's a lot of businesses as well that are trying to get ingress egress into their businesses as well for work product. So we are working with the principal and the police department on this request. And obviously, if we have to make modifications or changes to the options, we'll do so. But you know, ideally, we want to be able to entrust that the school district's going to help with presenting this to their parents and informing them that this is the way that they're going to be queuing on campus.
Caesar, it's also, Caesar, I'm sorry, and it's my understanding the school year is actually ending within the next couple of weeks, right? So we should not expect this to be happening like soon, probably aiming towards the beginning of next school year. So if that's the case, then it'll give us enough time for us to coordinate with the principal, get the information out to the parents, also coordinate with our police department internally to, like Caesar said, for the first couple of weeks, which is typically, you know, chaotic regardless of whether there's new signs or not. Our staff will be able to assist in terms of the traffic flow.
Good point, sir. Yes.
I wanna know, can we get a hold of the school police too? They drive back and forth. Have them go out there and enforce that also? Because our PD's really real busy. They're up and down the streets no matter what. Can't they have theirs, one of their officers stay there at least and start handing out the tickets too? Because I know they do give tickets. So I wanna know, can they,
The
get a
school
hold of
police.
them?
The school police.
Yes.
Yeah, we could make that a conversation point when we meet with the school principal on this topic, and then just ask to see what their capacity is at that point. I can't speak on their behalf, but you know that's a good, valid point.
That's all I had.
My question, I have a couple questions. One is the illuminated, the installation of the yellow crosswalks at Mines and Maple. Was that the request of the school or district, or did we recommend that? Did the staff recommend that?
I think that's staff recommended. Ideally, what we want is, the striping should be done anyways. Usually it's typical to do it in the summertime in preparation for the school year. However, I believe that also, when the grade separation started, part of the improvements would also take place on Maple. And so, it's a collaborative effort too with the COG and the contractor that's performing that work there too, to kind of make sure that everything's striped well. In this case, it would be the yellow striping around the school. But in any case, the city will end up doing that too. It's for the health and benefit of our community.
Thank you. Is there any, because I see that there's another residential area, Taylor and Mines, that's another intersection right there, where there's no existing crosswalk. Could that be an improvement that can be added for greater safety for kids walking across the street if they go to school there?
You said Taylor and Mines?
Taylor and, yeah, Mines, Taylor and Mines, yeah. The east side.
Yeah, we could definitely take that into consideration.
And then my second question was regarding the right turn only sign. I don't really think that's really enforceable. Like, maybe the first couple weeks when, police are there to assist the school with enforcement and safety. But after that, I feel like it's gonna be a sign people are gonna ignore it. That's just my opinion, but I'm not sure what your opinion is about that, Director.
So when they close Montebello, I'm sure it's going to be easier to go on Maple, either north and south of there, in order to avoid that closure over there. A lot of times we, as engineers, we actually put up signs and traffic detour signs and so forth, but it's really up to the community to pay attention to these signs and kind of do their due diligence. However, I'm sure that the police department, their presence makes it a little bit easier for them to follow the rules. But again, we can't post a police officer there 24/7. So we probably, coordinate with the chief of police and make sure that maybe during the first couple of weeks of school year, that they understand the school is going to have some sort of presence there, and that the police department is going to enforce this movement. Plus, again, going back to the grade separation project, I'm pretty sure that everybody's going to understand that it's probably better to go west and either north or south right there off of Maple.
I know we're talking about the first couple of weeks, but without disclosing too much in terms of how the dynamics of our patrols, we do spot enforcement, spot checks depending on the area. What is important for law enforcement is that they have an enforcement mechanism. So in the absence of there being any return striping or signage, then they can enforce it at that point, right? So yes, it's unfortunately people do ignore these things. Unfortunately, do it at schools. We can never guarantee that we'll have a police officer every day there at every school location, but they do monitor the school locations, and if they do observe those traffic violations, they will enforce them.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but I just feel like, to me, the right turn only, I don't see the need for it. Is it something that the staff recommended, or is it something that the school wanted?
Rita, do you mind answering that?
Sure. Okay, so better now. So they actually wanted to make sure that people only make a right turn, because some of them, they make a left and then they stop the traffic and then they can cause traffic. So another item that we can do, we can modify the driveway. We can actually put like a little island, and then force people just to go to the right
and for people just to come inside, but it's something that it was requested that it was needed at that location.
Thank you for that clarification.
And then also, I just wanted to add a little bit more, is that that area, it gets really bad, backed up with traffic because the parents, they don't actually want to use the drop-off area. So they actually want to use, that's why we want to put red curb in there and kind of like force the parents to do it, because they have a very nice drop-off area at the school. So that's why we put all those signs and do all the red curb. We want to force them to actually use that.
I appreciate that, thank you. Would I be able to make a motion to amend the? Yeah, so I'd like to just make an amendment, if we can just add I would say add an additional crosswalk, painted yellow crosswalk at Taylor and Mines, because we do have some residences there, for added safety. But I would motion to approve option 2 with that amendment.
Can I add something to it? So if a crosswalk is added there, are we just doing the crosswalk or are we adding a stop sign too? Because a crosswalk, in my experience, if it's just a crosswalk, it might put kids in danger if there's not a stop sign because of how people drive. And I'm speaking by experience, just me walking to the park from my house, where there's a 4-stop sign and people tend on Lincoln just to zoom by. And there's another very pronounced walk past the 4-stop sign. And I only cross there if there's absolutely no cars coming, because otherwise they will run you over. So I like your idea about putting another sidewalk there, or another crosswalk, I should say. I think there's a potential for danger too for the kids. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if the stop signs was a consideration, but also keep in mind, again, we don't need to rush into this one, right? The school district's the year's gonna end right now. We have at least, 2-3 months before we have to come back. You're also more than welcome to ask staff to come back and assess the crosswalk, the stop signs, look at any other modifications you want them to look at. And then we can come back to the next meeting and you can make a more informed decision at that point as well.
Commissioner Knox, also, thank you very much for that comment. So just to let everybody know, a stop sign requires warrants. So even if the city manager and us, we all wanted to put a stop sign, we actually go through an actual study that's separate than this. In this case, you're allowed to make a lot of recommendations, but traffic signals or stop signs, for example, warrant, and it needs to meet several warrants through the California MUTCD. So at some point in time, we could actually discuss that if you would like to bring this up at the next meeting. And then obviously we'll start working with the traffic engineer to kind of review that. But that will require stop warrants. And either it meets it or it doesn't. And then we would come back with that recommendation to you.
Okay.
Besides a stop sign, would those pedestrian rapid flashing beacons, would those be suitable as opposed to a stop sign?
So the rapid flashing beacons are suitable. We do not need warrants per se for that. And just to let you know, I think that we came at you at some point in time. We talked about applying for future Safe Routes to Score or ATP Cycle 7. And so we are adding several of those rapid flashing beacons or beacons just in general throughout many of the schools. So yeah, we will take that into advisement as well.
So would it be suitable to come back and discuss this further, to discuss what could be improved along Mines? Or do we need to make a decision today about between the 3 options?
Well, I would say if you want to choose between these options, you can make that decision today, but if you also want to consider the stop signs or anything else that was discussed, I would recommend that you have staff table the motion and come back at a future meeting with more information.
Okay.
Unless you feel comfortable with these being the appropriate traffic calming measures for this school. as is?
Well, I think there could be improvements, but I feel like this is a good improvement, and then we can build on that moving forward. Come back at a later time to add additional improvements.
What do you think, Cesar? What do you recommend?
No, I think that the city manager stated that we do have some time. I think the children go back to school probably sometime in August.
Yeah.
So we could always come back in July and, or I'm sorry, June.
Yeah.
Or July, either or.
Would
and
that
come
give
back.
us enough time to implement these changes before they start?
Yeah, the changes, yeah, regarding the stop sign, we probably need a little bit more time if that's really one of the recommended actions. So, but if we come back in June, you know, that's a discussion. A stop sign would go through, kind of different tests and so forth. But everything else could probably be made. So if you wish, we could table this item and then come back in June and then, you know, discuss it further and then provide a little bit more options as to, you know, what we can do and can't do and so forth.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any motions, or should I make a motion?
I'd like to table it to the next meeting. Let's go over and look at it again. Without the stop signs, I know it's costly, you know, what the stop signs. The beacon lights, you said, is less, you save more money. As it is, the city's in financial aid anyway. We need the help. I think the beacon lights would be good. I asked for the beacon lights many years ago, right by the school board. Trying to cross that street was hard without beacon lights. So what I want to do, I want to go ahead and put it on the table. So
We have a second to table it? To
I'll
future meeting?
second.
Thank you.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Beas and a second from Commissioner Knox. I'll proceed with the roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Mares,
Aye.
Vice Chair Beas,
aye.
Chairman LaRocca.
Aye.
The motion passes.
The next item, number 4, is regarding Boulevard Market Loading Zone. Director, do we have a presentation on this?
Thank you very much, Chair. So in front of you, yes, this request came in from many of the residents and businesses within close proximity to this area. Currently, the alley that is just behind the business is being used as a loading and unloading zone. And so the residents just north of the business there off of the alley and 6th Street, they're requesting that we relocate that to 6th Street in order for them to allow ingress and egress from the alley. The alley is not really technically wide, and so moving the loading and unloading zone to 6th Street would vastly improve the circulation in that area. It's a really popular spot. It allows for many of its patrons to use the parking lots east and west of the alley off of 6th Street. So the recommendation here is to modify one of the parking spaces there and then allow for emergency response vehicles and for the loading and unloading of vehicles during standard business hours.
Thank you, Director. Okay, we'll open it up to comments or questions from Commissioner Knox.
I think it makes a lot of sense to move the loading zone from the alley and move it to the curb on then 6th Street. That's my comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Modis?
I have a question. Is this, what's the length of the loading zone?
The length of the loading zone would just be one length of a vehicle, which would be 20 feet.
So would it be a commercial loading zone or a regular loading zone?
Yes, for a commercial loading zone, but it would also have different hours. So ideally, what we've been doing lately is, for example, green or yellow or white. You know, we don't want it just to be, for example, parking all day. So we want to be conscious that we don't want to take away parking from our residents as well. So usually we put time limits. So for example, we just installed the green curb not too long ago, and the green curb after I think like 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, you're able to park there overnight and it's not an issue. So in reality, we're just temporarily using it during business hours. And then once the businesses are closed, technically, then it's allowed for our residents to park there overnight.
So would it be for the size of a box truck?
Correct, yes.
correct? Okay, that's it, thank you.
We just did that in, where Balcomb's is, where the green, and then you guys put with the signage between the hours. I think that was pretty good with the signage. After so many, different, what was it? At nighttime, they had to park there, but between this time, they had to move that way. I think that was a good one. Let's keep it just like we did to Balcomb's.
Thank you. So my only concern is that it directly is in front of a residence. And, there's a window right there, so if this is a loading zone, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. and 5 p.m., this might disturb those residents there, because prior to this change that we're considering, there was no cars parking there, and it might affect their quality of life. This is consideration. Is there a reason why it was chose by the residents as opposed to in front of the business further south on 6th Street?
Yeah, the current location just north of the alley there, it's red curb. And the reason that it's red curb is because there is a hydrant there that's on site. It's not a city or a water company owned fire hydrant. So installing this right here allows them to easily ingress, egress, and then you get into the alley and then go through the backside of the alley. And then installing that, if we installed it down south, a big box truck, for example, won't allow you to see vehicles if you're trying to exit that alley going westbound. So then you would potentially add liability if a vehicle is traveling northbound and then you get into an accident there. And that was the reasoning behind putting it on the north end versus the south end.
Yeah, because I'm seeing like we might get complaints from that resident right there that lives there. And I'm not sure if it's apartment or townhome, but I'm not sure how many people live there. That's just a little concern. That's concerning. Also, since the loading zone period is from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., it's a pretty large window where there can be trucks there all day, Monday through Friday, depending on events and stuff like that. So that's another concern. Is there, how flexible are we for in terms of the timing? Can we reduce the timing because it is adjacent to a residence?
So the request to remove the loading and unloading zone from the alley was coming from that residence, not this specific individual here, but from the actual, from the condos there, from the townhomes, right?
Okay.
And so they're the ones that spoke to staff about removing that because they have their entrance through the alley. So when box trucks were parked in the alley, they couldn't get in, right? Or they couldn't leave from their homes. And so that's one thing. And then yellow curb doesn't allow you to park there between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. So you basically have to unload, load, and then leave, which probably takes 15 to 20 minutes. So there's probably be some time in between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. when there's really nobody parked there. And I don't have a delivery schedule as to how many the delivery trucks actually use to come in and out of that space there. But there's several businesses there. And I'm sure that they all have probably different times during the day in which product gets delivered.
Thank you for that clarification. That does ease some of the concerns that, it's a request from the residents, so that helps. The other potential issue is the pedestrian safety. As a box truck is parked there and pedestrians are walking south on 6th Street crossing the alleyway, and so if someone's trying to turn left and they don't see the pedestrian because they're being blocked by a truck, that's another a danger, a hazard. Is there any way we can provide ample visibility, a little bit more visibility, or in terms of moving the loading zone? Because it's very close to the alleyway.
Well, the use of the existing red, so we're trying not to remove another parking space for its residents, right? Or its patrons during the week or during the weekend. We were just trying to use that red curb and make it yellow.
Thank you. So when this space is not being used by a truck, like let's say it's on a Saturday or Sunday when it's not the loading hours, can any vehicle park there?
Correct, yeah. So the commercial loading would just be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Yeah, so
So
that's
anytime after 5 p.m. and before 7 a.m., you're able to park there, and then every time during the weekend, you're able to park there as well.
Yeah, I think that's a concern because then you have cars parking there all weekend long. And that affects visibility when you have a lot of people going to Boulevard Market, walking there. And let's say someone turns left, a resident turns left into the alleyway, and they don't see a person because there's a big truck parked there, like a F-150 or something like that, like a large, yeah, go ahead, Vice Chair.
As it's gonna be green. It's gonna be different hours. The hours are already set. There's space after, right before the alley. All we gotta do is just cross the other side of the alley and cross there, not cross in front of in back of the truck directly on 6th Street. You cross the street, you're on the other side of the alley, you cross there, or you go to the corner. But leaving it at the green space between those hours are perfect to me. I mean, my sense to me to drive a truck going through there, unload and unload.
No, I'm talking about on the weekends because it's
Well,
gonna,
the weekends it's open. It's green. We have posted. On weekends, you can park there.
no, that's the
no
concern.
loading.
Yeah, that's the concern because if there's a large, tall truck, let's say someone drives an F-150 and they park right there at the alleyway, and there's a kid or a pedestrian walking across the alleyway and someone turns left, not saying the person, a disabled person or any person.
But myself is F-150 ain't that big, that tall. I ain't driving a monster truck there. You know what I mean?
Well, some people do. I'm
I
not saying
mean,
you do,
I'm
but
just saying, because as it is, you're not parking a monster truck in that little yellow space.
well, it's not little, it's 24 feet long.
Yeah, but you got space in between it. You got long.
I think what's important to consider on this, I think we've all been to Boulevard Market here. It is heavily impacted regardless of what angle, what street, what you're looking at. What staff is trying to do here is, number one, accommodate the businesses, right, which have to load and unload regardless of their designation as well. Also, to a certain extent, designate that for the residents that live there as well, right? Yeah, I mean, if it's this, there's a lot of issues with this street regardless of the businesses. I mean, you drive it there, and there's always visibility issues, right? So I mean, this is, it's important to discuss it, right? I would just say that staff's position or what they're trying to do is just kind of alleviate some concerns, and like anything else, there's always ancillary issues that arise. None of this is written in stone ever, Caesar, right? I mean, these are official designations that we make as a city. That's it. I mean, we're trying not to make these changes again, but we're happy to come back, reassess. If we created other issues, we're happy to, take a step back and address those issues, right? But I just want to put it out that the reality is, regardless of what we do, there's going to be impact issues. There's going to be accessibility issues. There's going to be parking issues, right? We wouldn't be recommending anything that we would think would make things worse. We think it'll at least alleviate some of the concerns that the businesses and the residents have there currently.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any motions?
I motion to approve as presented.
I second.
We have a motion to approve as presented by Commissioner Knox and a second from Vice Chair Beas. I will now proceed with roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Mares,
Aye.
Vice Chair Beas,
Aye.
and then we have Chairman LaRocca.
No.
The motion passes with 3 ayes and 1 nay. You may proceed.
Thank you. Item number 5, 6th Street north of Los Angeles Avenue, request for installation of commercial loading zone.
Once again, thank you very much, Chair. So a presentation in front of you is to deny the request for the installation of 40 feet of commercial loading zone or approve the installation of 40 feet of commercial loading zone as shown in attachment C. So our Public Works Department received a request from the school located at 136 7th Street in Montebello to install a commercial loading and unloading zone along the front edge on 6th Street. Staff went out and reviewed the site. The Christian school operates a kindergarten through 8th grade elementary school, and they're trying to look about utilizing the space for drop-off and pickup of its children. As you can see in attachment B, the school right now allows for any parking during hours of the day. And the recommendation from attachment C is to install 40 feet of yellow zone for loading and unloading, and then for drop-off of children as well during peak hours. And then the request is also to extend for 15 feet of red curb in front of the fire hydrant.
Thank you. Do we have any comments or questions? Commissioner Knox?
I have no comments.
Commissioner Amadas?
No comments.
Vice Chair?
No comments.
I don't have any comments either. And do we have a motion?
I motion to approve as recommended.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve as recommended by Commissioner Knox with a second from Vice Chair Beas. I will now proceed with the roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Mares,
Aye.
Commissioner Beas,
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Next item is a request for the installation of a red curb at Morris Place in Villa Corona.
Thank you very much, Chair. This recommendation in front of the Traffic and Safety Commission is to deny the request for the installation of red curb, approve the installation of red curb as shown in attachment C. So the Public Works Department received a request from one of our Traffic and Safety Commissioners regarding an ADA ramp at his block when driving west on Villa Corona. Morris Place in Villa Corona is a T intersection with no stop signs, no stop controls. And both streets are residential local streets. Staff went out on site, looked at the traffic patterns, and saw that there was a lot of bicyclists and pedestrians walking up and down the streets. In viewing so, one of the issues that we had was that as the commissioner had stated, there is a line of sight issue concern at the T intersection. And then with regards to legal requirements, Assembly Bill 413 legislation requires that prohibiting the stopping, standing, or parking of a vehicle within 20 feet of a vehicle approach side of any unmarked or marked crosswalk or 15 feet of any crosswalk where curb extension is present as specified. So when we look at attachment C with regards to this bill, we can see that the red curb is necessary at the intersections. So obviously, with regards to the red curb, installing the red curb basically nullifies 3 parking spaces, and at this point in time, currently that allows for parking to take place. So the recommendation is to add the 3 red curbs of various lengths. There's 2 25-feet red curbs and then 1 15-foot red curb. And I will take any questions that the commissioners may have at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Knox, any comments or questions?
I'm sorry, was this requested by the residents in the area to, for safety reasons, to extend the red curb or to add it?
No, this was at the request of our commissioner.
Okay. I think it makes sense. That's just my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mattis,
No comments.
Vice Chair?
No comments.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. Yeah, I brought this item up. I'm a local resident. Well, not super local, that, you know, any conflict of interest or anything, but I do like walking around District 2, and I do notice these visibility issues, these safety issues with regards to people. We have curb ramps for a reason for disabled people, but they're always blocked by cars. And I hope this helps. I hope people obey these red markings and provide some visibility for people to feel comfortable walking around their neighborhood. It might add some inconvenience to finding parking, but I feel like it's necessary for safety. And if we need to add greater accessibility for disabled folks, we can always add disabled parking where needed. So I definitely agree that we should make changes around the city, especially here. So do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion to approve as recommended by Commissioner Knox with a second from Vice Chair Beas. I will now proceed with roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Mattis,
Aye.
Commissioner Beas,
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next we'll move on to item number 7, the request to increase parking supply at 235 to 265 East Beverly Boulevard.
Thank you, Chair. So item number 7 presented in front of you is to deny the request to proceed with the design of angled parking with one-way direction of travel on subject streets as requested in attachment C, or approve the request to proceed with the design of angled parking with one-way direction of travel on subject street per attachment. Staff requested, there was a meeting request from staff to meet at the locations of Bradley Avenue and Wilbur Place off of Beverly Boulevard. Those are U-shaped streets. Many of the residents in those areas live in apartment buildings, and there is not sufficient on-street parking. So they requested staff to kind of look at options and see how there are options to increase parking. You know, some of the issues in those streets are that the driveways are too little and too small, and not wide enough in between. So in reality, where you have, say, vehicles just parking, a lot of times the space in between two driveways might be like 12 feet. And your standard parking length for a vehicle is actually 22 to 24 feet. So, you know, we could go ahead and paint red curb, but all that's going to do is, you know, remove one affordable space for them. So one of the things that we were looking at was the potential to make that U-shaped street into a one-way and then include just angled parking. And by including angled parking, that would increase the number of spaces in that area. So we're looking at, you know, adding between 5 and 10 additional spaces, which would vastly improve the community's ability to park on street and then also obviously park on site. So we are looking for the chair and the vice chair and its commissioners to afford us the opportunity to look at the properly designing this area and then looking at putting in angled parking and then obviously changing the circulation to one-way streets. In doing so, obviously part of this is to have a community outreach meeting or several community outreach meeting with the residents in that vicinity to make sure that we're all on board with the one-way street. and then obviously the addition of parking, and then that would require striping and some also improvements on the roadway. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
Thank you, Director. Do we have any comments or questions, Maria?
Based on the attachments, I think it looks like could be a great plan. And if the residents are informed and they're willing to go with the change, it could be very effective. I think parking, it's a problem everywhere, and so if in this area it can be alleviated, it will be a great idea. That's my comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Mares?
No comment.
Vice Chair?
How much time do you need in advance for an outreach program to go to that neighborhood?
So ideally, if the commissioner approves the concept of us getting into this design, that would probably take maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks. And then we would probably schedule an outreach meeting, probably soon thereafter, to make sure if residents are actually in favor of that modification and change. And then if we do get some sort of consensus, usually what we would do is we would send out letters also. After the outreach meeting, we would probably have a meeting here in the chamber or somewhere in the neighborhood in order to facilitate the residents coming home after work. And then the letter would actually ask them to vote whether or not they would want to do that. Are they in favor of this change and these modifications or not? And so we would probably be looking at trying to get at least 50% plus one. But most likely, we're really technically looking at any of the residents saying, no, we're not interested in that modification or changes. So this would probably be a 3 to 4 month process.
Thank you. So what percentage of no's would it take for you to just cancel this project or this design process if we approve it?
That's a good question. We probably have to do a count. So usually it would be, because we do have apartment buildings, we're probably going to send out for each apartment and then ask them to vote. A lot of times, you know, what we'll do is we'll just have the property owners vote on these changes. However, a lot of times the property owners don't technically live there. So it's important that we actually get our community that's living there and get their input. And so it would have to be, say it's 100 homes, for example, it would be 50 homes plus one. So we would need something back in writing from us from what we send. And usually it's a self-addressed envelope, where they would just have to mail it back to us, where they would kind of click a box that say, no, we're not interested. But for the most part, it would be very rare to get, 50% plus one to say no.
Yeah, I think it's good that you have these ideas of outreach, and I appreciate that. But I think it's a very extreme measure of making this one way, because I actually went out to that street and I walked it, and I biked it, and I was like, this is very long, and I feel like most residents who live there, even if they're renters or they own, I feel like they would just be so inconvenienced by the fact that they have to drive one way throughout this huge loop. And I don't think anyone would want it. So, I mean, personally, I wouldn't want this at my street. And also the enforceability of the fact that it's one way. I think some people are going to be fed up and probably ignore the sign and just go the opposite way. So I think it's very extreme. I think there's other options we can probably look at. I mean, we just approved the addition of 5 parking units across the street. We can also look at, Beverly at off hours. There's other options. I don't want to put a lot of staff time in outreach when we're going to come back with it's going to be a lot of manpower, a lot of staff time, and over time, I doubt that it's gonna be successful because it's pretty much unenforceable and the one way, people are just ignore it. And for the addition of only 5 to 10 parking spaces, it's not, it's not there's not a big return on investment. But that's my comment. So I'll open it up to a motion.
I would say for consideration of the commission that, actually Cesar and I went out there and met with residents. We got quite a few requests about this, and I can tell you these are actually options that we discussed with them. This is what we can and can't do. If you actually spend time, yeah, I would encourage you to go right now. This street has a lot of issues, a lot of renters, like everything else. There's more cars than actually people that live there, number one. I would also ask you to look at the driveways, which are not normal sideway size. Cesar and I were actually quite shocked that these driveways were that size. Some of the ancillary issues we get: people parking on driveway, parking enforcement goes out there, gives tickets, residents are unhappy, one way or another. The diagonal parking will actually limit that, actually end that. And the other point I would say is that aside from the residents, actually us having those conversations and us seeing for ourselves, 5 to 10 spots is actually quite a bit. It's a lot of parking spaces for that neighborhood. Like, yeah, it's interesting, the layout of that street, that U-shaped, the parking impacts are quite significant there. So, as I mentioned before, staff wouldn't be recommending anything that we think will make things worse, right? In terms of enforceability, that's really our job. It's our job to enforce those things, right? People ignore it. I mean, it is what it is, but it's our job to stay on top of it, right? So that's it. I think as Cesar mentioned, the 3 to 4 month process, it sounds like a long time, but that's what we need to do to make sure the residents are informed, that they give us their opinion, and that we're heading the right way. And if for some reason they say that this is not what they want, that's not what they want, right? And we'll just go in that direction. But, I would say this, that speaking from actually being there with Cesar, with residents, it's they're pretty desperate for something, right? And I think not doing anything is probably like the worst thing we can do for further parking impacts in that street.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we don't do nothing. I just feel like this is a very extreme route we're taking. There's other potential solutions, like adding parking on Beverly at certain locations, and adding those and making 5 additional parking spaces, and do that on a temporary basis and see if it alleviates some of the issues. But I think this is a crazy amount of labor that's going to go into this effort for very little return.
Can I make a comment? I happen to know someone that lives in that street, and I actually went with them one time, and it is a very narrow street. Parking is an issue, and I understand that people double park there too. So I believe that based on my brief conversation with this person, I believe that they welcome a study and looking into see what can be done. I personally do not like one-way streets, but that may be the best solution based on the infrastructure of the street and the apartments. So yes, we don't want to see any money being wasted on projects that are not going to go anywhere. But in this case, if it's not looking to see how the residents feel as a whole, and what options there are. Maybe the one way is not the best option, but maybe they'll come up with different options that will be expressed while you guys are doing the outreach. So in my opinion, I think it is any looking to improving the residents' lives, daily lives. I don't see it as a waste of time. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
I have a comment on that
Yeah.
part. I think it's good. You need 5 spaces. 5 spaces of parking is a lot. In any street. You get 5 more cars in the street parking, they're happy. They're not parked behind each other's cars. There's no double parking. In my point, I think that should be a good solution. Damn, you have them in there. You go to Glendale, they have them in Glendale also. They had that because the apartments there are all there. Lines of apartments, but you do have a lot of parking because you have space to go in diagonally. The only part, like I said, is teaching people that there is a one-way only. That is just like you said, it's how are they gonna react to one way? They may be on, I don't want to Beverly. Beverly gets hectic as it is. I see that all the time. Well, Whittier too. You be parking on the streets. It's a jam. So that's all I have to say on that part.
Thank you. I just had one last question. How long is going to be the one-way street? How many, is it a quarter of a mile? Is it a half a mile? How long is it?
You're asking for the length of the U-shaped street?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that with me right now. Apologies.
Okay, no problem. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the recommendation.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second, anyone? Or,
I'll second it with an update that the youth outreach has to come out before it's all done. Have an outreach there, but I'll second that also, in my point.
so, just be clear, we have an amendment to do outreach?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's already included, right? Right, Director? The outreach component is included.
Right, so there would be the preliminary design, and then we would actually know exactly how many spaces. And then, we would actually send out this request to all the residents in the area so that they're familiar with the concept of adding angled spaces and then converting it into a one-way street. And then, actually having a community outreach meeting. And then after that, everybody that's owns or that has an apartment would then, get a letter from us with a self-addressed envelope that would state that, whether or not they're in favor of. So it would be basically them voting for it. And if, because a lot of times individuals that are for it won't really necessarily send a yes vote, but, we could count the no votes.
Thank you for the clarification. Is that okay, Vice Chair?
It sounds good to me.
Is it okay?
So
Yeah,
we
that's
have,
the way I understood it right from the beginning, that the outreach was going to be done and getting a vote from the residents before moving forward with implementing anything, correct? Motion to approve as recommended.
Yeah, we have a motion and
Second
we have
that.
a second, yeah.
we have a motion by Commissioner Knox to approve as recommended by staff in attachment C, seconded by Vice Chair Beas. I will now proceed with the roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Mares,
Aye.
Commissioner Beas,
Aye.
Chairman La Roca.
No.
The motion passes 3-1.
So the next items are, we have no consent items, and now we'll move on to the Traffic and Safety Commission orals. We'll start off with Commissioner Maria Knox.
Yes, thank you. I would like to see if the city can look into adding flashing lights to stop signs and key areas that are heavy trafficked and where it's obvious that a lot of drivers are not obeying the stop signs, such as in Lincoln and Germain or 19th Street. And then there's another one on Vale that is up on the hill. I think it's Vale Street, and I forget, should have gotten the name of the crossing street. I can provide with that crossing street. Those areas, and I mean, those are the areas that I see constantly where drivers do not obey the stop sign. It will be great if we can put a plan in place to eventually add flashing lights, solar flashing lights to those. And at minimum, if we could start painting the posts that hold the stop sign red, that would be, I think, a minor financial burden in the city to do such. And I think if people see the red, as I have seen it in some cities, it gets your attention because if you're not paying attention to the stop sign, you see the red on the post and that kind of like makes you look at the stop sign. That's just based on my own experience. Those are the two things that I like to see if staff can look into, the feasibility about implementing those things. Thank you. That's it. for me.
Commissioner, thank you for that. Just, thank you for your suggestions. Yeah, we'll definitely look at that. The, good news is, as part of this budget process, we're increasing the funding for more of these, stoplights, the flashing stop signs.
Perfect.
Now they are more expensive than traditional stop signs, so we can't promise you that we'll do it in every corner. We traditionally try to pick the high trafficked, locations to have those where it's more visible, but, that's one of the initiatives that Public Works did ask for more funding towards those flashing, stop signs.
And just on Lincoln, I noticed that the people that are traveling especially coming from the east to the west, they're driving down really fast and they don't even care about the stop sign. And I'm not saying just put one there, but, and on the other side, but on Lincoln. If there's not enough money to put them on Germain, then I see less drivers running over the stop sign, traveling that direction.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Modis, you don't have any orals on the agenda, but would you like to add anything?
Yes.
If you would, then do we need a vote for her to make an additional comment, or?
You could request the commission to vote so that you would be able to give unagendized commission orals. But that would be towards after the agenda, so
Okay.
Your position would still be upcoming.
So we'll keep that to the end?
Have agenda would come first.
Got it. Okay, we'll postpone that to the end.
But for reference for Commissioner Modis, I don't know if you walked her through it, so you're welcome to send us any orals that you want to have for any future meetings, and then those are added for consideration. Okay?
I'll do that instead.
Yeah, I also emailed the commissioners prior to the meeting to be able to add them to the agenda. Just in case you guys forgot throughout the month, there's a reminders to give you guys an opportunity to submit them.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. So I'll move on to my comments on the agenda. So item number one was if we can have a future presentation on any recent or upcoming grant application submittals related to traffic safety and pedestrian infrastructure improvements. I know in the past we've applied for some grants, so just for the commission to be aware of, what staff is up to in terms of grant writing, proposals, upcoming grants, so we can all be knowledgeable about the potential opportunities that there are.
On this one, I would recommend, because on your item number 9, jumping ahead, I'm sorry, you're asking for a CIP budget presentation. That's something the director did at the last meeting. We are hoping to adopt our budget at the first meeting in June. Afterwards, that's the official budget that the council's approving. I would recommend that we come back at that point and have that CIP budget presentation. Now, that budget presentation will cover not only our capital projects, but it also covers the grant funding that we've received previously. So I think that may answer your questions, if we're able to do that, again, after the budget is passed in June.
Perfect. Yeah, that's what I think I'm looking for. Thank you. Item number 2. So I believe the mayor requested a motion about a Vision Zero plan. So I think if the commission can be aware of that, of the progress on that, and how the city's plan and approach to eliminating traffic fatalities and reducing collisions.
That's correct. The mayor did put this on a council oral, I want to say at least a month ago. So yeah, we're in the initial stages in terms of assessing the funding, and then the next steps in terms of implementing a Vision Zero plan. So we'll come back as soon as we have more information with that.
Thank you. The third one is adding a pedestrian crosswalk on Greenwood Avenue between Date Street and Oakwood Street. Over the last couple of years, we've had, I believe, 2 fatalities between those 2 streets on Greenwood. So I'd like to make a motion to look into this and come up with a plan to implement this as soon as possible, if that's possible. This could be a beacon signal with traffic calming and maybe either flexible post curb extensions so people can cross the street, because this is a high pedestrian area and a lot of high-density apartments, and that desperately needs it.
Sure, we can consider it for a future meeting, sure.
Okay, number 5 is discussion of right turn slip lanes. So we have a lot of these slip lanes in City of Montebello where the reasoning behind them is not always clear, and it's not always in the best interests of the local residents. It's primarily for people passing through the city. And one of the highlighted, one of the slip lanes is on Via Paseo and Garfield. And I've got a lot of complaints from residents regarding that slip lane. Additionally, on Beverly and Via Acosta, there's a slip lane that allows cars to speed on from Beverly, merge like a highway onto Via Acosta, and cross several residential areas. That's just another example, and I'm sure there's others in the city. So if we can look into the feasibility of limiting the amount of slip lanes and redesigning these certain areas to improve walkability, to improve safety for residents.
I think on this one, it's something we can keep in mind, but redesign, things of that nature are really at the discretion of the city council. They're outside the purview of this body. Now, if you have specific traffic concerns, like for example, you mentioned Via Paseo and Garfield, Via Costa and Beverly, we can definitely look at, any issues that are there and kind of assess. But, redesigning is kind of, that would merit probably going to city council, because there's funding that's tied to that.
And would the traffic commission
We can make a
come
recommendation.
up with a recommendation for that?
Sure. But I think the starting point is really assessing what are the issues, right? Because.
Well, the speeding is the issue, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what the slip lane is for speed.
So I would say that's your observation, right? This is a body, right? So you have to vote as a body. So
Yeah.
again, we can, add this to the queue of streets that, you want us to consider that we evaluate in the future. We're happy to do that. And then go based on what those assessments are, instead of making a decision on the fly.
Okay, so should we bring up a motion and a vote so we can all vote?
Yeah,
on
if
it?
the council wants to support, if the commission wants to support, basically assessing these streets in
Okay.
particular. So just to clarify, Via Paseo and Garfield, and then Beverly and Via Costa. And it sounds like the observations are speeding
Mhm.
issues, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to look into these right turn slip lanes at Via Paseo and Garfield and Via Costa and Beverly. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Chairman LaRocca with a second from Commissioner Knox. I will now begin roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Maris,
Aye.
Vice Chair Beas,
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
The next item is looking into or implementing edge line striping for Wilcox Avenue between Via Campo and Hay Street. So this is an issue where people are swerving into. The lane widens, the right lane going north to south up Wilcox Avenue near Sure. It widens, and there's a chicane, painted chicane, but there's no edge line, so cars are swerving in the right lane, kind of, and it's causing potential safety issues and just speeding in general. So I think edge line striping or some other traffic calming measures in terms of infrastructure, whatever you recommend, would be suitable there. I'd like to make a motion to look into that.
I motion.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is a motion from Commissioner Knox with a second from Vice Chair Beas to look into the edge lining for Wilcox Avenue between Villacampo and Hay Street. I will now proceed with roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Myers,
Aye.
Vice Chair Beas,
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
The next one is lack of sidewalks across the city, but specifically, just one example is no crosswalks on all of Concourse Avenue between Beverly and between Beverly and I believe Via Corona, and also south of Madison on on Concourse between Madison and Whittier Boulevard. There's lack of consistent sidewalks or lack of any sidewalks in that matter. Is there any plans to build sidewalks on in these areas?
I mean, I can't tell you that right now. Obviously, you're asking on the fly. That said, if I remember, again, this is outside the purview of the commission. Sidewalks are capital projects. They're fairly expensive, and those go to city council for approval. But if I remember correctly, Cesar, this is the one that we talked about previously with the mayor, the concourse one, right? Wasn't this one the one that came up?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this one's already
mayor
been
brought this to our
evaluated.
attention.
This one's just as a reference point, sidewalks tend to be grandfathered in. They're grandfathered in. There's constraints in terms of what we can and can't do. We have to balance budget with also the need of the communities. If I remember Concourse, it was I don't think there was that many residents. It was quite a few residents. So we have to balance the needs of the greater needs of the city with how many residents are there. But I do remember Concourse was something that we previously discussed with the mayor, and it was something that we cannot accommodate as a city.
We can't
We
accommodate?
can't. We can't.
Why is that?
Again, cost, balancing the needs of the city, grandfathered in. There was a wide array of issues that we studied and discussed with the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
And just first a reference point, missing or sidewalks on certain streets and other streets, it's not unique to our cities. Many communities have these issues, right? That's why, and again, as a reference point, it's really expensive to put sidewalks. So we have to balance liability, cost, need, and also overall impact to the city. So these are all factors that we do. But again, this is in particular sidewalks are something that are outside of the purview of this body, mainly because of the cost. It goes to city council.
Number 8, traffic calming discussion. Yeah, so like walking over to the city council chambers today, I was almost hit by a car on Wilcox and Lincoln. The driver didn't even notice me. I had green, I was pedestrian walking across the street. Driver went literally right in front of me, and maybe 2 feet in front of me. That was like the most scary experience, and I was trying to come to a traffic and safety commission meeting. So obviously we have issues. People are not stopping at stop signs, but stop signs are not gonna help. And we're not doing enough as a city, and we have this new budget coming up, but I don't think we're putting enough money into traffic calming. And yeah, do we have any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Traffic in general seems to be a problem everywhere, not just in Montebello. I think the only way that it could be somewhat calm, as you call it, is if we had more officers on the streets, citing drivers, more surveillance on traffic. But I don't know if we have the officers available to be constantly on all the streets, or at least maybe if they could survey main streets, main areas, patrol them more often. I thought I had seen more officers recently patrolling the streets. I had seen more presence of officers. And I think that's basically just citing people because lights do not stop them, right? Stop signs do not stop them. Maybe, I don't know, citations, harsher or higher, I don't know if there's a limit of the citations that, like, if there's over, if the amount that they can be cited for not making a stop sign or going over a red light, if that's probably set by the state of California, not necessarily by the city, correct? So, if possible, more police presence. I think that will be the only thing that will help, because drivers are out of control. Things that we have seen on the news all over Southern California and in other areas is crazy. So I don't know what other way it could be alleviated, other than trying to have more presence of officers on the streets patrolling them.
I think we do have a lot of officers out there, like just today alone, between the hours of 7:15 this morning to about 7:45, I seen 5 cars get pulled over, just on Beverly, Wilcox, and Montebello Boulevard. We have that traffic out there right now, and we have officers out there. I mean, they're pulling over, just alone over they say, between Friday till today, I seen them. Today was a special day. I don't know, Coda Day or what do you call it? But they were there. They were giving tickets right and left. I mean, I'm slowing down, they're passing by. All of a sudden, here comes one out of Polly's Pie. Where were you at? And no, he wasn't eating breakfast, he was waiting. So, yeah, their officers are out there. That's why the traffic, I see Aurora out there, he's out there. He got a good group going out there. So officers, we do have out there. They are giving you tickets, they are getting caught. Maybe that way now that they see more out there, they have their eyes open. They have more mind. Hey, watch out where they're out here. I'd like to thank you for that one.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Matas, do you have any comments?
No comments.
Thank you. Number 9, request for a Public Works specific budget presentation. City manager just, he referred to that. He's gonna bring that presentation, the CIP presentation, to a future meeting. So that concludes my comments. Do we have any, now that we've concluded the agendized items, do we have any unagendized comments that Commissioner Matas would like to say?
No, it's okay.
Thank you. Vice Chair, do you have any
Yes,
comments?
I do. I have one that I brought it up, but I was too late to put it on the agenda. It's on Wilcox, Lincoln to Doran, I guess it's Doran. The one that goes from Wilcox Elementary School. The jam is so bad there. I'm gonna let you know. I travel there every day in the morning. Why? My wife still works there. She worked at Wilcox. We have cars parked on Lincoln red light, where the red line, no parking, all the way up. You make a right, it's blocked off. I couldn't get my car through the other day, so bring that up for next agenda, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Romero couldn't be here today, but she sent me a request from a resident regarding the traffic signal in front of the City Hall. I can't remember what the name of the City Hall sign is, that the street that's the traffic signal there, but so where Beverly Boulevard meets the City Hall entrance, that intersection, a resident was concerned about the light being too quick, like maybe she didn't have enough time to cross Beverly Boulevard. And so I just wanted to bring that up because Commissioner Romero couldn't make it today. That concludes the commission orals. And that, I think we're ready for adjournment. Do I need a motion, or do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion to adjourn presented by Commissioner Knox, seconded by Vice Chair Beas. I will now proceed with roll call. Commissioner Knox,
Aye.
Commissioner Mares,
Hi.
Vice Chair Beas,
Aye.
Chairman LaRocca.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. 7:30.
Thank you.